Welcome to the new automation mindset where AI, automation, and integration come together. Successful automation is so much more than technology, it's a mindset. On this podcast, we're here to learn about this mindset from innovative leaders who actually practice it every single day. From Fortune 500 companies to the boldest startups, these leaders have reduced cost, crafted experience, and fueled growth with automation. They have transformed their companies and their careers. I'm your host, Markus, and as Chief Strategy Officer and part of the founding executive team at Workato, it is my mission to find these top innovators in AI, automation, and integration and share their journeys with all of you. You may notice that this show matches the title of the Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling book, The New Automation Mindset by our Workato CEO, Vijay Tella. You'll hear references to the key ideas of this book, the growth, process, and scale mindsets throughout the show. If you'd like to explore them further, be sure to check out the book in hard copy or on Kindle. All right, so for today's episode, really excited to have with me Mikael Yayon. He's a partner at Ernst Young, Israel, for technology risk. And Mikael, first of all, really appreciate you taking the time. I know in Israel, all your lives have been turned upside down. You have a war, and I'm sure you have lots of other things on your mind. So I really appreciate you spending time with us today. Now, tell us a little bit. So, Ernst Young Technology Risk. You're doing SOC audits. Maybe to start off, you can explain to us a little bit, and also the audience. What's your daily life like? What kind of processes, what kind of work are you doing for your clients?
Yeah. So hi, Markus, and thanks for having me on the podcast. Really appreciate. The situation is not easy indeed, but really appreciate as well being here and sharing those insights with you. So basically, Ernst Young, we are an auditing company, one of the big four firms, right? So we are not a technology company, but we know how to perform audits, right? So my job, my team, we actually go through our client systems, right? Our clients are mostly software as a service companies. They want to get some kind of an attestation. That's what the SOC is based on. SOC reporting practice is based on around their security at the company, since they are actually providing services to their customers, right? So their customers are asking from an independent third party to come in and to provide an attestation around the security processes and controls that builds up the software as a service they're providing, right? So it's a lot of interactions with the client, a lot of, first of course, a lot of understanding around their businesses, their risks, their policies, the interaction with their own customers, their obligations, and then it's actually performing the audits, right? So once we agree on the framework and the controls that the client is presenting to us that we want to audit after that, then it's a lot of work on screenshotting different configurations within the in-scope systems, right? A lot of exports, a lot of back and forth. So a lot of challenges as it relates to communication, a lot of challenges as it relates to dealing with the screenshots and creating our own work papers. Because of course we have to support, when we provide an attestation, we need to have the appropriate work papers to support the conclusion of the attestation. So it's a lot of work, a lot of manual work that is being done. And we are not a software company, right? Most of the people at EY are CPAs or accountants. So we face a lot of challenges and a lot of manual work in the day-to-day basis. That was up till the time we started, of course, moving to automation.
Yeah. So look, I mean, I know what you've done with Workato, and it's really impressive. But for people to fully understand and fully appreciate really what you've done, maybe you can talk us through the different steps. I mean, you already explained a little bit screenshots, taking screenshots and communicating with the clients. That sounds a little cumbersome, right? I mean, it seems like that takes time and back and forth. And I believe, I mean, your Ernst Young, of course, is not like a newcomer to automation. I think you guys probably have used it all. Like, I think Ernst Young, a big user of RPA, right? Robotic process automation. I think you have other low-code tools. I'm sure you used probably scripting before, but tell us a little bit before we get to the big finale with Workato and what you have accomplished there. Talk us a little bit what you did before, what other ways of automation you're already doing and what you've attempted before, so we can fully appreciate where you've come.
Yeah.
In the end.
Sure. So basically this automation process started, I would say, around 7 years ago, something like that. So I have I would say a software development background, an IT background. So coming into this world with all the manual work I've been doing, of course, I've been doing that same work manually myself for years. And then at some point we started to try to think out of the box and leverage some new technologies or some new things coming out to the market. So at that time, robotic process automation was starting to be very popular, right? And it was, I would say, the beginning of the process of adoption. And so we have worked a lot on integrating a tool. We actually integrated UiPath, right, as part of the RPA process into our own work and our day-to-day, I would say, working lives and processes. But it takes time, because I think that when I look at these processes back today, and I'm trying to do some kind of, I would say, to understand what happens and what I can do maybe better and understand from the next steps, is that you have to look at those three letters, right? RPA, not as just tools that are going to replace maybe human people doing the work on their behalf or instead of those persons, but how do you integrate that into your processes in order to make your processes much more resilient, right? And where you can manage where you have any issues, around, for example, workforce or the strength of the process itself. So I think the key piece that takes a lot of time is not, I would say, in actually coding into the RPA tool, right? But it's more of thinking of how the process should look like in order to create the best hybrid intersection in the right places in the process and bring the best value into what exists currently, right? It's not just doing some automation. The key challenge is there, and that's what we have been learning a lot. And that's on what we iterate a lot. Actually, the key piece of the work is not on coding all the time. It's thinking on how we can re-engineer the process better to have more automation, to have a better adoption for the employees, at least in my team and other team using it. So that started 7 years ago. We did a lot of automation around generating work papers, right? On how can we make a better process, considering the assumption that we have our audit plan, right? We know what we want to audit at our clients. And so how can we take those screenshots and take all of these pieces of evidence the best way and transform them into work papers that are documented and can be then reviewed by the team. So actually to remove all the preparation of those documents, which are mainly Excel files or Word files, etc. So that's what we did with RPA.
I mean, you're setting us up a little bit, but because it's been, if I understand, like a journey, right? The 7 years you rolled in more and more automation. So let's talk about Workato, because the first time I heard about what you did, I really felt like, wow, this is great. Because when people talk about a lot of people talk about digital transformation, and then you get excited, and at the end of the day, maybe you realize, it's basically just rolling in another a SaaS application, or it's like a technology. Digital transformation is often overused, maybe as a term, but I think what you accomplished for your client process, I would really say, is some form of a digitization, like where you took those screenshots that existed before and really went to like a whole different model, a whole different process, and almost like it changed everything. Tell us about that. What did you do with Workato? How did you have this idea, and how hard or easy was it to make this all work?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I would say from a model perspective, like when you look at my team, we are recruiting our different profiles. We are recruiting much more technical people who understand technology, in order to make sure that the processes are running. So on one side, we're being much more efficient, and we run much more, I would say, workloads on those processes that we have built, and we did a lot. So for Workato, basically, what happened is that it consists, I would say, of adding a very significant layer of automation that we did not address until, of course, we found out about Workato. So basically, to summarize that, I would say that most of the automation that we did until we met Workato was done after we were getting the data from our clients, right? So, as part of doing our audits, as we said before, we need those pieces of evidence. So from the moment those evidence are within the EY information system, then the automation comes in, and those processes that we have built were coming in. So the challenge that was still remaining, how are we getting those pieces of evidence in a smart manner, in a way for us to as well leverage not only on the fact that we get it automatically, but also on the fact that we get structured data, right? And so we have been looking out, of tools, and basically, so we came in, picking up Workato, and the other assumption for that was that most of our clients, since they are high-tech clients, and I would say a lot of enterprises and companies today are using, cloud-based applications like AWS for infrastructure, or Google or GCP or Microsoft Azure, GitHub, and a lot like that all provide API in order to connect and do and extract some information from there. Then we said, why can't we just use a tool like Workato in order to plug into our clients and extract the data to us in a formatting manner, and then we have bridged the gap between our clients and us. Data comes in, and that's where we're continuing with our processes, and we're starting to do the validations. So Workato is really an additional layer, a key layer that we're using in order to communicate programmatically with our clients. And now our clients don't need to screenshot anymore, right? Because we just plug in, we extract the data, and we can get the same level of work papers as we were getting with screenshots.
So, Mikael, what is impressive really is that if you think about all the other Workato customers, many Workato customers, they use Workato, in internal processes, maybe HR, maybe in their finance department. You are really using Workato in the essence of your business, in the interactions with your clients, in the actual work, how you make money with your clients, and I believe from what I understand, it's also fundamentally changing the experience of these clients. Tell me a little bit about what do they see? Like, what was it like before and after? Like, what are the benefits of making that automation switch?
Yeah, sure. So, I would start by saying that it's really digitalizing the process of auditing completely, right? I mean, really we have reached a point where now all the process is digitalized as well. The piece of the process where we are getting the data we need for audits from our client system, right? So that's a huge change and way of doing the work. So, our clients, so as we said before, there's most, high-tech companies, startups, a lot of startups. So, young people who really don't have even the time, right, to sit a lot with their auditors and to screenshot, hundreds of different screenshots in the different systems they have and provide that to the auditors. So what we did with Workato is really remove this need, right? So we have been cutting off all those dozens of hours that our clients were, investing in screenshotting and in providing the evidence to us by saying to them, you don't need to do that anymore. Now we can plug into your system. We're going to use Workato, the embedded version, right? So in order for us to be able to do that to multiple clients, and then we plug into your system and we extract the data. So to give you an example here, so one of the processes that we have to audit as part of the SOC reporting audit, one of the key processes is the software development lifecycle, right? How those companies are actually developing and moving to production changes that have been, tested, authorized, and approved before being moved to the production environment and in front of their clients. So that process before Workato was taking us as auditors with our clients, it's a duet, right? We do that together around a month of time, an average of a month of back and forth, saving the population of changes that you're going to sample some changes and then you're going to screenshots different parts of your systems to show us that actually those changes were actually authorized, tested, and approved before you move them to production. Around a month, right? And that's the average time we have been measuring. Today, with the same type of clients, we plug in Workato, and of course we come in prepared. It took, I would say, 15 minutes maybe to configure Workato. We plug in Workato into our client systems, and it takes between 10 to 15 minutes to close the process completely. So that client last year who was investing a month of his time dealing with EY or dealing with the audit and my team and the back and forth, etc. Now it's a 10 minutes face-to-face screen sharing, right? We're screen sharing everything, and we're getting everything we need for the processing and the creation of work papers. So that's on the client side, right? So it's a huge change for them. So those clients who knew, I would say, the old way of providing evidence, and they see that today, they are very impressed, right? They don't believe it. And I also don't believe it sometimes, right? I mean, to take the truth, it's so impressive that I sometimes also don't believe it. It's a complete change in the way of doing the same work we were doing before. But I would say it's not only to our clients the change, it's also to my EY team, right? Because they are now dealing with high-tech, with high-tech tools, high-tech products like Workato, which is, I would say a complex tool on one side, but it's very easy to use it, and it can do very complex stuff. And on my team as well, the work they're doing is much more straight to the point, right? So I provide them with all the tools they need and the processes to make sure that they focus on their professional judgment and on actually the audit itself, and not all the tasks around, which consist of getting the data, processing it, getting to that work paper step, and from there doing, using the professional judgment and actually providing the added value. So now they're focusing their time on that a lot. And the experience is totally different as well inside, right? Inside UI. So it's not only outside UI, which of course is a huge change. It's also inside UI.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The lens I put on these experiences is always like, do I bother someone with something where it actually could be done without bothering them? Like, if I can order online or I have to call someone, I think for me, it's a lot more effort to call someone. It's a commitment, it's time and so on. And I feel like it's almost bothering me as a consumer a little bit, where the online experience is just less friction. It's done. I don't need to worry about it. It seems like to me, what you've achieved is not like a little evolution, like a little more automation here and there. It's almost like a step change. It's a whole different game. I don't know, call it audit 2.0 or something like that. It's a new way. And I imagine this must also be a differentiator, right, for your offering in the market. Do you see that clients just feel more comfortable about that, or?
Yeah.
Just curious.
I mean, it's totally differentiating, right? I mean, as far as I know, we are the only firm that are performing, those audits that way, and we have also many plans, also moving forward, leveraging the same technologies, of course, Workato and the same RPA technology on behalf. But I mean, we came to an understanding, and we're not alone, right? To understand that, I think that there are two key, I would say, people challenges for the next 10, 20, 30 years, right? So one is that you have less people to do the more work, right? I mean, people don't like too much learning a CPA and accountants, etc. So it's quite challenging. And also on the client side, right? I mean, those clients who have startups, or I would say all those companies, they don't want to, I would say, invest to put their times in doing that work, right? So the objective is to come with the value proposition to the client and to say to them, we understand you guys. I mean, we know that we don't want to invest too much hours in doing that tedious work. And we have done the work internally at EY to make sure that we provide that value proposition. We did our best, and we are doing our best in order, that's the EY, I would say that's the EY slogan, right? I mean, to make the world a better working place, right? A better working environment. And that's what we're doing all the time. So we are saying to our clients, we understand that. We understand you. We understand also, the changes that we have in the way of working. We understand the technology changes, and we want to leverage that into our services and make sure that we get to that audit 2.0 level, right? So and to do that, we are building both processes, and we are incorporating technologies as well. And that's the key value proposition. Our clients are very, very happy to see that. I mean, they don't believe it. I mean, the new clients, I would say, starting the process, for them, it's like a done deal, right? I mean, that's the way it works, because this is the first time they're doing it. But for those hundreds of clients that have been doing that process for years, and redoing it this year, or I would say even now, 2 years ago, so when we started implementing Workato, for them it's like, okay, so what should I do now? Are we done? Are you really serious that we're done now? Yeah, that's the point we managed to reach, and that's after years of working, of course, and implementation, but. That's the value proposition, right? Really understanding our clients, understanding the change in people, understanding the change, the way of working, and making our own changes as EY, right? Even if we're very big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, look, to me, it's such a great example of this. We're talking about the new automation mindset, and you've probably seen the book that we put out about the new automation mindset. There's these three mindsets. The process mindset, I don't think we need to talk about it, because, I mean, this is what you do. This is the auditing process. I don't think you need to be reminded to think in terms of processes. I mean, you do anyway, right? I think what comes out so nicely is the growth mindset, where you kind of go and you say like look, we started off, we have to do this. It always used to be screenshots, and, we automated within Ernst Young, but we automated almost to that borderline, which is getting the data in from the client. All the automation happened after you got the data. And I think the growth mindset is really like, how can we put push this process to be even more efficient, and saying like, oh, well, look, there are systems on the other side. They have APIs. Let's use that, and let's not bother people with screenshots, but let's go into their systems and figure it out. Let's take that responsibility on ourselves. So that's really awesome. Now the third mindset is the scale mindset, right? And you talked a little bit about you're not a software company. You're obviously CPAs and financial experts. Can you talk to me a little bit more about the scale mindset? Because this is also about enabling more people to get into automation and maybe, give more wings, more abilities to maybe a small team that helps. Like, how does that work with Workato? Who uses Workato? How do you make that work? How do you scale that in Ernst Young?
Yeah, definitely. That's that's a challenge. But so basically, I think that every company, right? Everyone needs to transform, right? We need to make that transformation, to evolve, and to integrate all of the new processes and all of those new technologies. That's part of the transformation process. So internally, what it means is that we are having all of our people internally working on Workato itself, right? So they had the professional knowledge on the auditing process. And Workato is, I would say, a low-code tool, right, in the marketplace where you can actually very easily leverage pieces that have been built already to the teams. So we transformed, I would say, even the organizational structure, right? And so everyone in my team is interacting with Workato. So, everyone, of course, is doing some audits with their clients. So basically, the way we work, of course, we have some subject matter experts, right, on Workato to do all, I would say, the heavy leverage. But then once that piece of work is done, everything is spread out to my team. And actually, my team is working with Workato directly in front of our clients. And they feel very comfortable in doing that because it's pretty intuitive. So once we have done that first work, right? So developing those recipes, etc. Then the team can combine that piece of work that has been prepared for them with their auditing knowledge, their professional judgment, and of course the level of service to the client, and just perform the audit in a much more efficient way. So basically, what it means is that on the day-to-day, I would say on a day-to-day basis, they are using the technology, they are running the technology in front of hundreds of clients and doing the work. So that's the key piece of the transformation that we need to have internally, because you can't, think like before where you have, for example, an IT team that are doing 100% of the work and they're providing an output to those CPAs for them then to work out on that, and they should get back to the IT again, and the IT gets back to the clients. It's not like this anymore, right? The Workato removes the need for someone in the middle, right? So we can have a direct connection with the clients, with all, of course, the added value that it provides on all the sides. But it means that also internally we reorganize the team and we train, of course, the team as well to work with Workato, with the tool, to plug that in correctly within the existing hybrid process that we have been building in my team, and making all of this, very big automation of all those processes orchestrate the best way possible, right? So that's where the transformation is. The key piece is understanding. I think also it means of trusting your employees. You need to trust them. You need to trust the person you're working with. Sometimes it can be challenging. Changes are always challenging for people, but you need to do that in a way where they feel comfortable. They have I would say, the appropriate support internally, and they feel comfortable using a tool that they are familiar with, easy to use, intuitive, with enough, I would say, low risk of failure, and that's what happens today, right? I mean, everyone's using the tool, everyone's performing the audit through the tool to get the evidence. And that's how we plugged in, I would say, the outside world, our clients, right? But today they're like, they're inside, right? I mean, we're all together. And the clients definitely see the added value on that.
That's great. So I'm wondering. So you're obviously doing, very serious business, right? So you're doing SOC reports. You're looking at the risk of software companies and so on. I'm curious, how you evaluated when you were thinking about Workato in the first place. Maybe you can tell us a little bit, maybe how you found Workato. Also how you evaluated it in terms of security and so on. Obviously the clients need to be comfortable also with a tool like Workato. What went into that? You obviously software companies are your clients, right? Workato, we're very proud that we have, I think we're now over 100 customers in Israel. Many of them are software companies, so maybe you found it somehow that way. But tell us about how this all came about and how you ended up with Workato and what was important for at the end selecting Workato.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, it started with the clients, right? So at some point. Told us that they didn't want to screenshot anymore. They wanted to have the process more efficient. And then I said, all right, if you can provide us the same data, not in screenshot, but instead of screenshot in a JSON format or in any structured way where I can prove that it's the evidence has not been modified from the point you have extracted it until the point I get it, then I'm fine with that. And that's how it started. That's what they have been doing, right? So that client is actually a security automation platform, right? It's a client of us. And that's how the process started, because that's how we were starting to get data from them. So we plugged into our own internal system, our own automation at EY, the data that they were sending over to us. But then at some point I said, why don't we do that with all the clients? So let's find out, let's look up on the internet and find out what are the best tools in the market to do that. So that's how we came by working, with Workato. And I would say that from a security due diligence point of view, right? So you have, I would say, two types of clients in Israel. So as you mentioned, you have around 100 customers here. I would say that 99% of these customers are EY Israel customers as well on the audit side. So that's a great point, because for all of these customers, the only thing we have to do is, all right, so we have already our recipes done on the EY Workato. Just take them, run that over on your side and send out the output, right? Since you guys, we can manage also, the recipe lifecycle. So we know exactly that the data was not changed from the point they have been running it until we get it. So that's the first piece of the clients, right, on the software companies in Israel that have already adopted Workato. So from a security due diligence perspective, it's very straightforward, right? So just take the recipes and run that on your side, send over the data. For the other piece, I would say that, first today in the high-tech environment, people are much more, understand the added value of those tools. So as long as you present, I would say, a good proposition around what you're going to get with that tool, you can, just open the door. And then it's a matter of configuring everything and making sure that you're not requesting too much permissions, that you're not staying plugged into the client system all the time. It's just a one time per year, right? Those audits or annual audits. So one time per year, then you just plug that out. And of course, you guys are very well known in the market. So where they, for those few, I would say, in Israel who don't know you yet, they Google you a little bit, and we have also a lot of course, you have a brochure and a lot of, lots of documentation around that. So the process is very smooth, right? I mean, I don't think we have encountered even one client who said, no, I don't want to run the tool, right? Everyone is okay with that. We have only, of course, read permissions, very straightforward. Screen sharing live, and so that's how we came to the point from where we started with that client saying, I can send you everything in a JSON format, than us saying, all right, but let's do that with everyone. Because everyone's using GitHub, everyone's using Bitbucket, everyone's using Jira, right? All those tools. And then that's where we are today, with hundreds of customers running everything, a lot of time on the recipes and everything. So it's a lot of added value here.
No, that's great. I mean, Mikael, I wonder, like, so first of all, I'm not surprised, right, that this is happening in Israel, EY Israel. I hope it's going to spread. But that's where innovation happens, right? What I wonder is, like, in your mind, like, so you've been there 7 years, you've seen audit 1.0, you've taken it to audit 2.0. What do you see for the future? Do you see more opportunities? Do you see audit 3.0? Like, what would that look like? Is there what work is still to be done?
So good question, Markus. So I definitely see an audit 3.0 that we're actually, working a lot on it, and so basically consists of integrating generative AI, of course, within those processes, right? So it's a challenge. I mean, I don't know if the word challenge is the right word, but basically working that way and being able to scale so much now means that we need to be even more agile than what we were before, a lot more agile. And it's very difficult because we have still pieces of information, I would say, as part of our processes, of our audit processes, that are very challenging to change, right? And to, I would say, even to foresee. So what we are now doing is adding another layer on the top of, I would say, you have like the RPA layer, the Workato layer, and now we are plugging into the Workato layer and everything, generative AI, in order to be agile enough that when we are getting some data from our clients, before even it comes to UI, to our information systems, we already know what kind of data we are getting and what does it address from an audit perspective, right? And generative AI helps us in understanding that structure and helps us in generating information, text that we need for audits there as well. So we're coming to a point where I would say we have the technology, we have RPA, we have Workato outside, working all the time, pulling out some information from our different customer systems. And in a real time even, we know exactly, we are starting to know where we're actually building is, right? But the idea is to know exactly what kind of data we're getting in and plug into our, I would say, or the audit practice, right? And the professional aspect of what we are doing and the added value from an auditing perspective into that in order to, on the fly, generate as well other pieces of information that are still up to date, challenging to figure out at the very beginning, right? I'm not sure if I'm clear enough on what I'm saying, but Audit 3.0 is being currently developed in EY Israel, definitely.
Yeah, as I said, I'm not surprised. I guess this is the growth mindset, just continuing on and on and on. I mean, I'm sure there's many challenges out there that can still be accomplished. We're at Workato, we're really excited about this complement of the automation, as we know it, but then infusing it with generative AI. So I'm really curious to see also, once this is taking shape, what audit 3.0 looks like. Listen, Mikael, I really want to thank you for being here on the show today. I think this was just an amazing example of the new automation mindset, how you're, we're very process focused, obviously an industry also, like CPAs and financial auditing, that's a very serious business. Not the most innovative business. I mean, it's supposed to be rigid and very process oriented. But I think you've just achieved like a whole level of client experience with Audit 2.0, and I think we're all really excited to see what Audit 3.0 with generative AI will look like. That's amazing.
Thanks again, Markus, as well. And and let's jump on another podcast sometime to go through what is Audit 3.0 in more details.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Mikael, and all the best of luck to you. And see you soon. Thank you. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's The New Automation Mindset, where AI, automation, and integration come together. If you want to learn more about the key topics we've covered in the show, you can find them in the book, The New Automation Mindset by our Workato CEO, Vijay Tella. Also, leave us a comment and let us know what you thought of today's conversations. And don't forget to subscribe so you will never miss an episode. I'll see you next time.